Hello everybody and welcome to Not Done Yet. My name is David Tickner and I'm Chief Executive of the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship. And as always, I'm delighted to welcome to the room my co-host for our podcast, my friend, colleague and the CSRF's Deputy Chief Executive, Denise Headley. And as I always ask, what's on your mind today, Dee?
The coronation of Andy Burnham. He likes curry sauce on his chips.
Controversial.
Apparently he likes curry sauce on his chips, so he's going to be a good PM.
There you go. There we go. Maybe more on that later, depending on how we go. If this is your first time listening, Not Done Yet is a podcast from UK national charity, the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship, that celebrates age, challenges ageism, and proves that retirement is not the end of the story. It's very much just the beginning. The CSRF has been providing charitable services built around friendship and support for retired civil servants and their dependents for over 6 decades. And if you'd like to find out more about how to get involved with our work or make a donation, or both, you can check out our website, www.csrf.org.uk. As always, we'd like to say a huge thank you to everybody who's listened to the episodes we've posted so far, and to the over 2,500 of you who have subscribed to our YouTube channel. We love you dearly, but you need to do more. We want you to comment. We want you to like. We want the thumbs up. We want the like. We want the hearts. We want the positive attributes on all of the channels that all of the episodes that we've recorded so far. You can actually do a massive amount just to help out raise our profile by liking the videos, sharing them with friends, posting a comment, or just subscribing to the channel. Those of you watching on YouTube, you will see a bell icon. I've got more confident in knowing what the hell I'm talking about that. But if you depress the bell button, I'm reliably told by my far more learned co-host that that will mean any new content we post, and we don't just post Not Done Yet, we post shorts, we post promos, and there's also
an online group as well, Dee.
Online group, exactly. So there's a smorgasbord of things to keep you interested. And considering the international appeal of our episodes, if you are listening from Japan or Colombia or Latvia or Italy or Argentina, I probably shouldn't say that because I'll get hammered by those people who are supporting the England football team. But any of the international countries we know from our analytics have been tuning in. You are very, very welcome here. Apologies, we are not multilingual. My some nod in the direction of language is Duolingo German. But if you put on the captions or the subtitles, hopefully you will be able to hear us and be able to read in the language of your choice. I'm thinking YouTube might do that. If it doesn't, apologies, YouTube. That might be something you want to take a note for and obviously look at adapting as we go through. Anyway, enough of my preamble because we have a guest with us. And this guest is not somebody who has just retired. And she said just before we went online, she has been retired as long as she was working. And Jean Bishop, from what she's kindly shared with us before we started the episode, enjoyed a remarkable career in the civil service beginning in the 1950s. Early in her career, she was identified as a potential high flyer and attended the Civil Service College, which sadly is no more, before becoming a vocational counsellor with the Department of Employment, which is now known as DWP. And she helped people find work and also build brighter futures. So a very appropriate guest for Not Done Yet. Over the years, she progressed into management, running job centres and later overseeing several job centres and an enterprise unit. Although Jean says she wasn't perhaps ruthless enough to climb to the various highest levels of management, she does describe herself as firm but empathetic, which are qualities that earned her the respect of colleagues and made a real difference to the people she served. Alongside her management career, she also discovered a flair for communications and community engagement. She's worked with local radio, and she's also organised special employment events featuring well-known personalities to help promote opportunities for job seekers, which I hope we'll hear more of when we delve into the podcast. But rather than me introducing her, we're going to bring her on board. She's there, as you can see on screen. So a big not done yet welcome to Jean. We're delighted to have you with us, Jean. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm looking forward to this experience, a new experience for a 90-year-old person. And that is it. I'm looking forward to it.
You, we are equally excited about having you. Now, you will know from watching our previous podcasts, we always start the podcast with a very simple question, which may have a different sort of answer from you, given the fact you've been in retirement a long time, which is very simple. When did you realize you were not done yet?
Well, the difference, I suppose, between myself and many others is that I asked to be retired. I applied for voluntary retirement. I'd nearly completed 40 years service, and there was an opportunity there. It did, in fact, take over a year for me to get my escape route because I was very flattered to be told that I was doing a very good job and they didn't want to lose me. But eventually, my manager, man over me, he knew I was really keen to go and he helped me achieve my objective. So, of course, having retired voluntarily, I was already ready to go. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew why I wanted to have the time to do all these other things that have been put on the back burner because my work was so all absorbing. So, does that answer your
It
question?
does. That's great. I mean,
Brilliantly.
just a side question to that. I mean, you'll probably be aware that we do a lot in the pre-retirement planning arena at the moment. And just obviously, from what you've said in your intro, would suggest to us you were very well organized about how you approach that. I mean, when you decided to take voluntary retirement, did you have support within your department? Did they put you on a pre-retirement course? Did you get advice? Where did you go for obviously determining what exactly it was you wanted to do when you left?
Right, well, I didn't go on any pre-retirement courses because rather arrogantly, I suppose, I thought that I knew where I was going, which I did. And my very first sort of inroad into retirement was still connected to the Department of Employment because I became self-employed, which was a revelation. I wanted to see how the business world worked as opposed to the really sort of moral code that the civil service in my day followed. And of course, business is not quite so straightforward. They're out to make profit and they cut corners, and I experienced all that. So I worked for training companies as a freelance person, but these training companies all had contracts with the Department of Employment to run courses for the long-term unemployed. And that is what I was a tutor originally, and I used my counselling experience as well within the context of that. So that was how I started, and I already had that sort of penciled in, if you like, before I actually was let loose and let free. So that was answer to that question, I think, wasn't it? Yes.
It was, yeah, very well done.
Right. Next question.
So can I just jump on? Could I ask a quick question then, Jean? Because you were talking that you said that essentially you had an idea about one of the things that you wanted to do when you started your retirement journey. What would you say is the things that you enjoyed most in terms of the activities you were able to pursue? Did you have a favorite one?
Well, I mean, the other thing that I pursued sort of concurrently with that was my writing, because I'd always been a sort of a closet writer, if you like. I'd written a lot of poems, which I put into an anthology later on. And I set about writing a novel, a raunchy novel,
I
which
was
is,
just going to say, was reliably told it was a bit racy. So give us a bit more flavour on that.
oh, come on.
No, we want to know. It's a safe space.
It was the experience. It wasn't an autobiography, I can assure you, but there were
Oh,
one or
how
two
disappointing.
experiences in my life which were fed into this narrative. But it was the story of a woman who, and her sexual life, really. Um, it wasn't Jackie Collins something. It wasn't that sexual, but it did include sexual activity. But it was really a woman emerging as an independent woman. It's very much a feminist book, really, because this woman that I came from a very poor background and was brought up in a very sort of stereotype sort of way, but she had something about her which she knew was different from everybody else, and she really did make incredible headway in her life. Became a businesswoman, etc. So it's quite an. I was told it was a page turner, and what happened with the publishers was I didn't get it published, but I had some very good
Oh.
responses from the publisher. Don't give up, they said. Don't give up. But they have so many people sending stuff in. They have this pile of stuff, and mine didn't come to the top of the pile. So the only people who've ever read it are relatives or friends who have found it quite. They say it's like a sort of a holiday read. 2 or 3 days, and you've read it sitting by the beach.
But it's a huge achievement for you to have obviously, completed that as a project. I mean, an awful lot of people will talk about doing a novel. I mean, I came up, for example, my background is in journalism, and I've always loved the idea of being able to write a novel. And
Yes.
during COVID, when we were all locked down, I had a
Oh, yeah.
notepad out, and I've got about 3/4 of I've got the concept, I've got the
Yeah.
characters, all of that character. I just need to find the time to sit down and write the blooming thing. I mean, I know the whole plot line.
Yes.
So my hat off to you for actually, finishing the whole process. How long did it take you to write?
How long did it take? Well, I can't actually put a time. What happened was every morning I came and sat here where I'm sitting now, and it was almost like distant writing. I had no plan. I had no preparation for this. I just sat down there one day and started to write this novel, and it just seemed to come to me. It was an extraordinary thing. So every day I disciplined myself and I sat down, I think for half an hour to an hour, and wrote more until I think it was 60,000 words. I think it was a
Wow.
novel, a sizable novel. But the time that it took, I'm afraid I can't really recall, but it must have taken quite some time. And of course, it took going back 20 years now. I mean, it was a long time ago. It's sitting gathering dust now.
You
But
should dust it off,
Well,
Jean.
that's exactly what I was
dust it
going to
off.
say.
I
I was
did. Sorry, Denise.
sorry, Jean. Yeah, Jean, I think I'm really heartened by your novel story and the creation of a piece of creative work. And I think you should dust that novel off and resend it out. And
Yes.
it would be really cool because firstly, it has an historical perspective because it was written 20 summers ago and the world is
Yes.
different. Secondly,
Oh, yes.
yeah. Secondly, it's a novel from a group of women we don't often hear about, which is retired civil servants. How many retired civil servant novels are there? And
No.
I think all those things would work in your favor in terms
Yes.
of sending it to
Thank
editors.
you. Yes.
So, I hope you're encouraged after this podcast
Thank you.
to dust off your creative work. And we might
Lovely.
see it in Waterstones when we come down by Cutty Sark.
We'd expect a signed copy if we get it in Waterstone, so we
All
can
right,
keep
then.
it for posterity.
I'll let you come to my book signing.
Very good.
I'll be there, Jean.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to.
Yes,
I mean,
you've been.
on that though, Jean,
Yes.
your central character, quick question on that. Everyone has a mental picture of who they imagine playing their central role.
Yes.
Who do you imagine playing your heroine?
Never really thought about that, but honestly, I can't really. I might think about that later, but I can't
That's
think of
fine,
my
no
figure.
problem.
No, but yes, I was going to just come back on something Denise said about the time factor. Well, the actual novel was set in a previous time. It was set. She was born in the 1950s, I think it was. So it was a bit sort of retrospective anyway, the way I wrote about it. But as you say, and so the time frame then was not the time frame in which I wrote it, but as you see now with everything, we didn't have mobile phones, did we, and all these sort of things in those days. It's a whole different sort of scenario. Yeah, lovely. Well, thank you. Oh, and the other thing that I did send again, I sent it to a woman publisher. I thought we'd try a woman publisher. And
Yeah.
and much to my wonderful surprise. You normally send two chapters, I think the first chapter and perhaps a middle one, and she asked to see the whole book. Oh
There
my
you
goodness.
go.
So I thought, well, this is looking good, isn't it? So
I
the
think
whole,
there is a book publisher. It was an imprint of Random House called Virago that is actually specialist in female authors. And
yes.
their whole reason for being is, I'm pretty sure it's Virago. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you know which it is when you listen to this, put it in the comment section if I made a boop. But I'm pretty sure there are several imprints of book publishers now that do specialize in female novelists. So if you were to dust it off, you might find a new view of, obviously, given the
Yes,
fact it's 20 years
yes.
since you last did it.
I'll
Yeah.
have a look in the directory of publishers, which I've got somewhere. Look, it's probably a bit out of date now, and update myself with what's
But
available.
you've
Well, I'll
also
take your encouraging word. Thank you.
good.
So,
But Jean, I
what?
think that's not the only thing you published, is it? You've also done I think from the information you sent us, you've done several self-published booklets, one
Oh,
of which
yes,
I think you said was archived by West Sussex County Council.
yes,
Can you tell us a bit
yes,
more about that? What was it? What made
yes.
them archive that as a historic document?
Okay, well, it's called Corona Blues, and it was all written during the pandemic, and it was seeing the pandemic from an older person's perspective, an older person living on their own, which was my situation. And of course, pretty lonely when when living. Most of the people in this road you see have got husbands, wives, or lovers, or whatever. They had somebody with them. They
Yeah,
weren't on their own. I was the only person living here actually on my own. And we used to go out and do this thing on the doorstep, clapping all the
yeah,
NHS people. Well, of course, we all did that. We had to all be apart from one another. It was ridiculous. When you look back on it, it was a load of nonsense, wasn't it, really? But anyway, they all then went back at the end into their little houses with their partners, and Jean came into an empty house, and I felt very depressed over that. But anyway, I
mm,
wrote this with the encouragement of a dear friend who sadly died last year at the age of 60, a very dear friend. He edited it for me all the time. He went through every chapter of the chronology and gave me a little bit of guidance. And his son, who was at the time a schoolboy, he did all the pictures, little drawings for it. So anyway, that was what Corona Blues was all about. It was little bit. I always put humour in everything, you see, because I've got a good sense of humour. A little bit of humorous touches, but it was a blow by blow account of what it was like, and I of course covered all the main things about the, well, I can't remember it all now, but Boris Johnson was taken ill himself, wasn't he? It followed the thing sort of historically, as it were, but it was from the
yeah.
perspective of an older person living alone during this, which was a very lonely existence because you weren't allowed. I was allowed to have a cleaner. I think I was allowed to have a couple of people who come to the house. They were,
Well, they kept changing the rules, didn't they? I mean, one minute you
yeah,
sort of you understood what the sort of, depending where you were in the country, you were either allowed to have a bubble or not have a bubble, etc., etc.
yeah.
I mean, it was very difficult, and of course, obviously, very current in the sense that the COVID inquiry is publishing all its various findings and has been recently. Sorry, dear, I saw a hand up there. Were you going to interject?
Yes, I was. What I
Yeah,
was going to say to Jean was that, Jean, you know the work that the local authority archived for you. Do you
Yeah.
have that like in a PDF or something like that?
I don't have it. All I know is that a relative of mine said you really should have that put as a historical document, and they did it all. I didn't have anything to do with it at all.
Oh,
It's West Sussex County Council archive, and I think they probably sent me an acknowledgement, but I can't remember. But
have you got an original copy though, Jean,
yeah, because I thought
of the booklet?
because
I've got
people
the
might
grand.
be interested in reading it. This is what I'm
Mm,
thinking because when we publish the Not Done Yet, we have people who look at it from all around the world. That's why when Dee
exactly.
was doing the preamble, he said, people in Jamaica, Latvia, and Colombia, all different places. And I thought it might be interesting for those people
To see
if they
it.
were Yes, because
Absolutely.
if
Well, it,
I would like to have a look
well, it
at
is
what, you
it's
know.
downloadable because I mean,
Okay, I think we should maybe try and include that in the link, D, so that
Absolutely.
publish it, there's
yeah,
something out there, because I think that's the wonderful thing about your writing
And
and
I
your
think it's
creative
also
work.
exactly, and I think it's also very interesting, Jean, that you picked that subject because I mean, certainly I think D, you were probably still with Age UK during
Yeah,
COVID.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, we
yeah.
had an awful time trying to find ways to support members of our communities during that time.
During that
And
time, yeah,
even now, there are still older people who are still uneasy about
okay,
reintegrating back. I think, I mean,
absolutely.
of course, I totally accept there was nothing written down about how to deal with a pandemic. Hopefully, they have now, let's hope governments subsequently have updated their guidelines to have a bit more clear understanding of what to do. But the
yeah,
damage that they did to
mm,
people, I think there were two things. I mean, obviously, we are by nature human beings that thrive on interrelating with other people. But I
mm.
think the other element was the isolation, so
Yes, oh,
and
absolutely.
that whole you are not allowed to mix, you're not allowed to do, because I remember very vividly we had to, when we were given advance warning of the fact that the lockdown was going to happen, because we had our chair at the time was
Yeah,
within reasonably senior in the civil service, so she was getting intel before Boris stood up on the TV. So we had a mini head start, not a huge head start, but we were able and had to very sadly issue a directive to all of our groups to say they had to stop meeting. All of our befriending volunteers had to remain at home, etc. So it was really difficult. And but I think, to speak to Dee's point, I mean, it's lovely that you sort of
yeah,
turned an awful situation into a positive by
yes.
writing what you did. And I think that's terrific.
Well,
And I
I'm
think people will be
pleased.
interested in it.
Sorry, I can give you the link because it's been
Oh, wicked.
loadable for my U3A people. They've been able to. Well, anybody could download it. So I'll look at that after we've spoken then and see how I can get it across to you, and be lovely. Thank you.
Hello there. If you're enjoying this episode of Not Done Yet, this is the commercial break. You may not know, but the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship is a national charity. We receive no funding from the civil service, and we are entirely supported by the generosity of our donors and subscribers. If you'd like to join our community or just make a one-off donation, check out our website www.csrf.org.uk and make a donation online. Or if you prefer, give us a call on 0208 691 7411 and make a donation over the telephone. Thank you very much. We hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
I've got another question.
Go for it.
Okay.
Who's going first?
Me. So my other question, Jean, is how do you stay motivated? Because you said that you have been retired for 30 years, and I'm really keen to know how you maintain your motivation and your enthusiasm for doing things as you go through your journey.
Right, okay. Well, let's take another aspect then, which is something quite different, which might illustrate that. I was born in a pub, and so I spent 24 years in my parents' pub, and so I always wanted people around me. I shared my home virtually with other people, so I've always had a very need for a social life. So after I retired, I started running parties, and I became the party person of this community. I did a murder mystery party, and then the other ones were two outdoors for a year, two outdoors, one at Christmas and I think probably my birthday in September. But they weren't just parties where people sat and made small talk. They were entertained. I mean, I spent quite a bit of money initially, which I enjoyed doing. I used to hire a conjurer to go around doing table tricks, and I hired a singer. Every time I would hire some sort of entertainment, but they also entertained themselves because I also ran this humour group, you see, for
Yeah, that's so
UGA.
cute. A humor group. That's amazing.
Yes, yes. So with my background, my humour group, people they were given. I mean, I've got a microphone. I always had one then, I've got one now. You used to have the microphone and offer people the chance to entertain us. And you'd suddenly find somebody who got the most fantastic voice and you never no idea they would sing. Another person, two people in particular, would tell jokes and off the cuff, into the microphone. So there's a lot of self-entertainment within the group, but I was there all the time, engineering it, planning it. I never sort of was resting because I was always there, manipulating it, if you like. But I loved running my parties. And so that was something which I was very well motivated to do.
Can I ask you a quick question, Jean? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt your flow. Who were the guests at your parties? Where did they come from? Was it local community?
Right.
Was it?
Well, first of all, it'd be all the neighbours. We've got a wonderful community. I'm putting my hand out now. Wonderful community, and I have to take credit. I brought a lot of them together. We had a lovely Sri Lankan couple, the doctor and his wife, who are my lovely friends of mine. They, I felt, came into this community very apprehensive because they had friends who had experienced racism. And I I rang their doorbell when they arrived and I said, hello there. I said, I'm Jean. I said, I'm from number 1 down the road. I said, welcome to the close. And I said, I run parties for everybody. I would love to invite you. I'm having a party. Would you like to come? But they came to every one of my parties. And from that beginning, they got to know the other people in the road and they've made up. Everybody loves them. I mean, they're lovely, lovely people. They've taken British nationality, as one does. And he's a doctor. They're lovely, lovely people. But I did that and brought people together. And so, first of all, that was the core. Then obviously I've got lots of other friends all around the houses. Most of them were local people. Sometimes people would come down from some other part of the country and join in if they felt so minded. But I would have about, I should think, 25 people at a time. Not a vast number, but it was enough to make it a party, And of course, drink flowed because I got my bar, and I would get and I paid somebody, you see, to do the bar, to meet the people at the door, do the bar,
wow.
and dish the food out. I mean, I didn't do any of that, you see.
I've got to ask you though, Jean, what was your party piece at your parties? What did you do as a
Yes,
party piece?
well, I haven't got it in front of me at the moment, but it's a lovely thing called, I forget what it's called now, but it was written by a U3A person in another part of the country who sent it to me, and I said, could I use it in my party? But it finishes up. It's this woman, it's a story, it's all in rhyme, this woman who is looking for a man in her life, you see. And in the end, I say, and I think I've found the person I want. And I walk around the room and I say, and the person is you. And I would point to one of the men in the room and give you a hug and a kiss. And that was it was quite a good party piece, actually. It's all beautifully in rhyme, very humorous, you see, often all very humorous. But if I haven't got it in front of me, otherwise, I wouldn't read the whole thing. It would take too long. But yes, so that was my party piece. I do play the piano, but I've let that go now. So I had another chap come and play the piano because I've still got a piano here. He would play the piano. I had another chap I paid to play a piano, and he bought it as a portable thing. And if it was an outdoor party, he would put his portable piano on the patio and play out there, and everybody would join.
So would they play requests? Would people ask them to play, or do they have a whole repertoire of what they came to play?
Well, he would have a book with all, he could sing, he could play virtually anything really, but he had a book and people would take the book and they would say a book, what they would like from it, you see, or if there was something else.
That reminds me, one of the early members of the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship, who I met when I very first joined the organisation, was a lady called Evelyn George, and she actually wrote the fellowship song. She was a celebrated pianist. She was very much a bon vivant. She went through 6 husbands and lived life to the full. And I remember doing an obituary at her funeral, which was down in Rottingdean. She lived in Rottingdean, or Saltdean actually. She was very actively involved with the preservation of the Saltdean Lido on the south coast. But she was
Oh yeah,
she had an advert on the side one side of one of the Brighton buses advertising mobility scooters. So she was a
oh,
great character. And my
yeah,
first exposure to her was at a national AGM when we used to have overnight AGMs in Coventry, and there was a
yeah.
giant piano in the bar. And she literally would, after the sit down dinner, she'd go into the bar, she'd have a gin permanently on tap on the top of the piano, and she had no sheet music at all. And she would just be bimbling along, right? What song do you want? What piece of music do you want?
Wonderful. Yeah,
Every single piece of music
yeah,
people
yeah,
requested, she did without any music in front of her at all.
yeah.
She was
That's
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'm afraid I had to play with music if I play,
Yeah.
but I don't play very because my eyesight. I'm partially sighted, I think, and I find it difficult reading the sheet music now. But it doesn't matter because I've got other things. Life moves on, and one thing goes, another thing starts. So, the other thing that we haven't mention, which I really must make sure we do get into the mix, and that is the U3A, because I absolutely urge everybody to acquaint themselves with the U3A, because the U3A is international, it's all over the world, it's all over this country. It's nothing to do with having got a university degree. People are a little bit misled by that. It doesn't mean you've got to been to university. It really means it's the university of life. Now, we pay a fee to pay an annual fee, and then everything else is done by the group. So we all run these groups voluntarily, so people can go to, you name it, it's there.
All
You've
right.
got physical things, you've got cerebral thing, you've got social thing. Whatever your interest is, I'm sure you would find that you could pursue it. And it means you meet other people, gives you something to get up and go. It's incredible. Well, I can't praise you through enough. It's been my life really for the last 30 years. And when my husband died, I've got no family. I'm an orphan really, and so it was like my family. They supported me all through the early part of my bereavement, and I made lovely, lovely friends. Sadly, many of them have passed on already, but please let's be sure that all your people who are going to retire know about the youth records. I don't think it's very well
And I think
publicised.
a lot of people might not even know what youth.
I think
That's the University of the Third Age, isn't it? Is that what the title is?
Yeah,
U3A.
it's called yes,
yeah, it is
University.
University of the Third Age. That's right.
U3A, that's what it says. It's
Yeah.
University Age, yes. But a lot of people think when you hear that word university that it means you've had to have a university education. And it doesn't mean that at all. I mean, I think you'd be a bit well, most people that I've met have been pretty sort of intelligent, but there again, you don't have to do something that is using your brain. Musical instruments, they do a wonderful thing now where people learn to play the ukulele, which seems to be a very popular thing now. And they've got a very big ukulele group, and you can learn to play that. Learn to play musical instruments. You can do keep
I
fit.
think it's great you brought that up, Jean, because I mean, obviously, we provide services, but the U3A have footprints in a much wider field than we do. And I am very well aware over the years I've been with the organisation that many of our members are actually already equally participant with U3A activities,
Yes,
and it does vary around the country according to what you pay. There is no national fee because it's set by local branches around the UK,
yes.
and
Oh
you get
yes,
a different rate depending. Some areas are cheaper, other are more expensive, but the
absolutely.
principle the principle is the same. And I
Yes,
think
yes,
the other thing which is quite clever is it can sort of it can self grow. So if you've got experts, so say for example, we created a U3A group in Greenwich. D
yes.
could do a group on a subject, it could be drumming at festivals, and I could do one on. So if you've got an expert or somebody willing to lead a subject, you've got
Yes,
you've got all sorts of potential, I think, in terms of what you do. But it's great. And I think obviously, as we say to all of our listeners, we work in partnership with many, many organizations to ensure that our people have the best possible access to the information to make sure they live the best lives they possibly can once they retire. I mean, we have advertised actually many years ago. They have a national magazine, or at least they did have a national magazine, and we had an advert in there in a particular area to encourage if people were interested in setting up local groups. And off the back of that, we had a lady who read the magazine who came to us, and we established a group that ran for about 5 or 6 years ago in the Whitstable and Herne Bay area of Kent. So it's it has got a lot of merit. Dee, you were going to throw
Yeah,
a nugget into the chat.
all I was going to say, Dee, is if we can, when we release this episode, we could have the link to Jean's archived COVID experience, and we could also put a little link for the University of Third Age, because it might not be that people are familiar with it, they don't know about
Absolutely.
it, and we can add value by sharing the good news
Yes.
about all of the things that our community is doing and our partners are also doing.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Everyone is different, so they would need to get in touch with their local one in order to know what facilities are available. Yes, so that's something that David said prompted triggered something in my mind, and that is that I was, sounds very big-headed, but there we go. Why not? I was. A group, trying to think of the word now. I ran a humour group, and I was the national advisor for running humour groups. In other words, all over the country, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and England, I did in fact instigate the setting up of humour groups in many other U3As, because I was the advisor. They used to write to me, people that thought, well, I think I'll do that. And I used to send them out all this sort of kit, that I evolved, telling them how they set it up and how it ran, blah, blah, blah. So that was a very interesting role that I fulfilled in U3A. And of course, the most important one was I was chair of U3A for a whole year.
Oh, wow. Well done.
Yes. I never called myself a chairwoman or a chairman. I was always the chair. And
Oh, I
my
do
Quite
chairperson.
right.
I do chairperson so no one can get upset.
Chairperson.
yes, I never used
Exactly.
that.
And chairperson,
All
chairperson
right.
actually
All
sounds
right.
more
Well,
logical because
I
when you
suppose
say someone is a chair, you just
I
imagine that
know.
they are a chair, as in you're going to sit on a
I
chair. But
know
anyway,
people used to laugh about it, but my darling husband unfortunately dropped dead toward the end of that year, and so I had to sort of withdraw most of my services. But I did sort of see the final of it and hand it over to somebody else. But yes, so U3A, I've had my little promotional talk for U3A because I have very, very
Jean, tell
deep.
us a bit more about. So you said you were the sorry, you said you were the chair of the humour group. What exactly does a humour group do? I mean, for those people listening who might think, well,
Right.
that sounds quite an interesting concept. What happens in a humour group?
Right. Well, the format that we had was, first of all, we would very democratic. We would choose somebody would choose comedic celebrity. Dave Allen, I think, would have been one of my favourites, and then whoever nominated that would then research into that person, and we would have a screen where you could put some sort of visuals up. I'm not quite sure what we did now. I know we had some sort of screen, perhaps it was a I don't know, whatever it was. We had some sort of visual effect. We're going back way now. And so that person would research it, and they would sort of stand up or sit there, whatever, and go through a presentation of that person. So we would have a sort of a learning time, and then we would break for our break after that. And the afternoon, the second session would be all self-generated. People would come with jokes, or they would come with a little sort of a wonderful woman who was an ex music hall artist, and she would do little sort of Joyce Grenfell impersonations, stand up and say, do you remember Joyce Grenfell, do you?
I
And
do.
so
She did a thing about when I grow old, I'll wear purple in my hair or something, as I recall. She did the stand up, didn't she, about George Don't Do That, where she was doing as though she was running a kindergarten, I think.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, and she would say, "Hello, Johnny." Johnny, oh, Johnny, don't pick your nose like that. It's not a
Yeah.
nice thing to do. Things like that, So they would then entertain themselves. They would all, and there no shortage of people to come forward to go and do their little bit of sell a joke. So it was a sort of that was basically the two parts of it. But I mean, it was open ended. If anybody wanted to sort of do anything in particular that they thought, as long as it was, people came there feeling perhaps sometimes a bit depressed. They got one woman who had a very sick husband, and for that hour they forgot it and they really laughed their
That's an
socks off.
idea.
And it was very therapeutic.
Such a
And
lovely
because I
idea.
had no shortage of members of that whatsoever.
I think
Yeah.
it's a lovely idea. I'm
Good
surprised it's
idea.
not more publicized because obviously, we all have down days where we could do with a bit of a lift. And I think something like
Yeah.
that, which sounds like an amazing way of doing it.
Well,
Could I
mine is still being run. What's my? Oh,
That's what I was going to ask you, Jean.
yes.
Is the humor group still going on?
Yes. Oh, yes. Fortunately, all my
Oh
groups were
wow,
taken over by other people. They didn't. They didn't perish, and yes, it's still
fantastic.
run by a person that was one of my members. Because I've been a sort of a 3 year person. After 3 years of doing anything like this, I feel that it's time for somebody else to take over. Because you do get a little bit. It gets a bit sort of run of the mill. So one of my members said, "Yes, I'd like to take it over." I said, "Wonderful," and she's still running it now. And
Oh,
that's, gosh,
fantastic.
how many
I have
years?
to ask you because you mentioned Dave Allen at the beginning of your spiel,
It's my
and that
favourite.
triggers a memory for me. When I was very, very young, my dad was in the army as an army chaplain.
Yeah,
So he was stationed overseas, and for a mess night, they did a sort of not a sort of like a cabaret for what everyone had to do a stand-up routine of something, and
yeah.
he did Dave Allen. And
Is it?
down to the point, because I think Dave Allen had lost a finger or
Yes. You had
something.
a lost finger. Yes, a
That's
long.
right. And I
Yeah.
have a sort of I don't know how old I was. I mean, this is way back, so I think it was probably when I was in single figures age-wise. But I do have a mental picture of remembering my dad doing, he had a sort of piece of sellotape to do the
Yes.
finger. And
Yeah.
I think Dave Allen, I kid you not. And I think Dave Allen also, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gene, used to smoke like a chimney and drink
Oh
whiskey.
yes.
Drink
Yeah.
whiskey as well.
Yeah. And he
So he
drank.
had a glass of whiskey and a cigarette in hand, and he obviously
Yeah.
did the whole Dave Allen
Yeah.
routine as
Yeah.
part of the army mess night. So there you go.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what made you pick Dave Allen though, Gene?
What maybe what?
What made you pick Dave Allen as your favorite comedian?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, I didn't pick him in that humour group. I was just threw him out as an example because he
Oh, right,
has
okay.
always been. But I preferred Dave Allen in his later life when he had white hair, and he more mature by that time, married with grown-up children, all the rest of it. And there's a lot on YouTube now that you can
Yeah.
get. And I still enjoy that because he's dead now, as we know. Wonderful man. And of course, he was very sacrilegious. He was brought up as a Roman Catholic and he was very anti-Roman Catholic Church. And he came out with some very, very true stories, which were quite, although humorous, they were quite. It's on the news today, actually, similar thing about all the dead babies that they found as a nunnery for women, single women having
An
babies.
ongoing scandal, I think, sadly, and but not just the Roman Catholic Church. I think the Church of England has some questions in that arena as well.
Yes. Yeah, but anyway, yes, Dave Allen very much in my liking. Yes, Denise. Why am I giving you permission to talk? I
No,
don't
do you know
Because
what,
you're the
Jean?
star of the show, Gene.
Yeah,
That's
and
why.
you know what it is? I don't want to interrupt your flow because
No,
sometimes when you're
absolutely.
talking, when I just don't want to jump in, so that's why I just wait until you're finished. That's what so I put my hand up. So thanks for giving me permission, Jean. Just a quick question. Um, how do you approach making new friendships in retirement? Because you have been retired for, like you said, 30 years. You've written books, you've run humor groups, you've engaged in workshops. And for those people who are visually looking at this thing, you're very engaging and you look lovely. So I'd like to know, how do you make friends when you retire, and how do you do that throughout the whole of your life? I mean, you said you did the parties, which is a good way, but
Yeah.
how else do you make friends, and how do you keep yourself in the space where you want to have a friend, and you put
Yeah.
yourself in the space to
Right.
make
Well,
friends?
that's a very interesting question, because probably it's more going to be more interesting or relevant to tell you about now that I'm at this very end.
Absolutely.
Because you see, I see life as we're on a train, we're on a journey, on a train, and people drop off the train, they die, they go. But as you go on, new people board the train, and therefore you're losing people, but you're gaining people. And how do I get these people? But it's extraordinary how people come into your life unexpectedly. I mean, one thing that happened recently was a van suddenly parked outside my house, a great big van, and a woman rang the doorbell and she said, "I'm ever so sorry, can I leave my van there?" She said, "Yes, it's broken down." She said, "Actually, it's run out of petrol and I've got to wait for my blah, blah, blah." I said, "Of course you can." Anyway, we got talking, you see, and it transpired that she only lives just up the road and lived there for God knows how long, but unfortunately, we'd never met because she'd never walked down the road. She'd always gone in this van, and we'd never met. So we talked, and I said, "Well, would you like to come round for a coffee?" Well, well, yes, I would. Now she comes round to me. She's a young woman, only in late 40s, and got a very, very interesting life, which I can't tell you about now, but it's a very fascinating life. Not all good, but interesting. And she is now on my friendship list. Now, what other people have come into my life? See, people come out of the blue. Well, all my lovely helpers. I mean, they're not only my helpers; they're my friends. They treat me. Then Katie's been here this morning, my lovely cleaner. She's only 38. And she doesn't treat me any different from her. We're on equal footing. She doesn't treat me like grandma or mum. We're friends, and we really get on well together. She confides in me because I'm a counsellor. People do confide in me. You see, particularly younger people. They know I'm not going to talk about their private life, but they like me to listen to them. I don't give advice, but I sort of listen and help them to see where they're going. So all the people that come here to help me for different things, but a hairdresser's been coming to me for 30 years,
Oh,
and I've
wow.
watched her
And your hair
children.
looks lovely.
I watched her children
And
grow
the
up.
lippy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Your
I said
hair
we're
and the
compliment.
lippy looks
Yeah,
lovely.
complimenting you on your hair and lipstick, Jean.
Oh, are you?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
that's
said
nice
you look
of you.
lovely. We said you look lovely.
Thank you. Very kind of you. Yes,
Oh.
well, my hairdresser, she comes here. I'm letting it go white now, by the way. I've been having it coloured for years, but I've decided to go white now, because you can still look
I went
reasonable.
white a long time ago.
Oh, only just at the sides. So
I don't have
anyway,
anything on the top. Why do you think I have a pair of glasses on my head all the time?
oh, oh, that's the headphones are covering it all up.
Exactly. Quite right too.
Well, we can't escape aging,
This is very
and I
true.
mean
Yeah.
I've not had any Botox or anything. I mean, but but I see it. If we're going to go on to this sort of subject, I do have once a month. I have a sort of, well, how can I put it without being really blunt? But I have my face attended to with surplus hairs that grow in the.
Oh, that's
I
me
have,
too. Don't worry about that, Jean. I've got a beard. Don't watch that, my sister.
oh well,
I'm
I have.
forever pulling it out. Yeah. It's actually quite a pleasant pastime because you can there's so many, you can sit
Well,
down for about an hour and pluck them all out.
oh, well, there we go. Well, it's all done by waxing, and I.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
it doesn't hurt. It doesn't. It's
What about
it's
the top lip? Do you wax the
very,
top lip?
it's very quick though. Whoosh,
Yeah.
so anyway, I have all that done, and then I have my hair done
Oh,
once
well
a fortnight
done.
now, and then I have with my beauty treatment, I also have my nails done, manicured,
Oh,
uh,
well, I love that. Can I just
and
clap you? I
she
love
does
the
my
fact that you.
eyebrows. She
Oh,
brushes.
well done, Jean. I love that. I love that you're still interested in
Oh
coming out and
yes,
giving it large and in charge.
yes.
Quite right, because
Wonderful.
we have an ongoing commentary, don't we, Dee, on the show. about
Yes.
fashion and beauty, and the
Yes.
fact that
Yeah.
we wholeheartedly spit on, for want
Yes.
of a better phrase, this
Yes.
nonsense that assumes that you get to a certain age and it's all about comfort. Well, of course there is a comfort element, but you can't be embracing designer this and designer that, and
Colours,
you know
nice
you got to
print.
wear your flaunted your caftan, and you have your walk-in bath and all of that. Whereas actually, you
Yeah.
know, you've got disposable income. The older you get, you can, you know, you should be able to embrace whatever the hell you want to wear or dress like, or
The
you know,
shape
if you
of
want to
my
wear lipstick, wear lipstick.
t-shirt or the constitution. Yeah. Yes, I agree with you entirely. Comfort does have to. I can't wear high-heeled shoes now. I can't wear heels at all.
Me
I've
neither.
got a job to keep on my feet with flat shoes. So you do have to give in to certain
Yeah.
things. But I mean, I've got a t-shirt which you can't see my t-shirt, can you?
Yeah,
But
but
It
you
looks
look
like it's got
smart
a
in it
bit of
too.
bling on it, Jean.
there's my
Oh, that's nice.
I love it.
yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
Love that, Jean. But you
Yeah.
know what I like about that? You know what I like about you, Jean? You're still very much interested in being out, engaging, keeping yourself
Yes.
looking
Oh
spruce and
yes.
nice. And I
Thank
think that's
you.
really important when you're going on your journey in terms
Yes.
of,
Yes.
after your working life, you still have, that desire
Thank
to,
you. Yes.
get your hair done, do your
Yes. Oh
nails, wear
yes.
something nice. And I think that
Yes.
really makes a difference, especially if you get opportunities to do that. Like you said,
Yes.
you had your parties, so you could
Yes.
still dress up. You could do so
Yeah.
many things. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
I don't run parties now. By the way, I've had to give up my party. That was becoming too stressful
I
Yeah.
for me.
have no doubt you are still partying in your mind on a daily
Yeah.
basis, even though you may not actually
Well,
have
I
them.
miss it, I must say, but
Yeah.
it was becoming quite stressful because I can't switch off, you see, even
Mm.
though somebody else was doing all the waiting. I found it difficult to switch off. I've always got to be sort of monitoring everything. But anyway, that's not a major problem. So yes.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of Not Done Yet. If you didn't know much about the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship, we are a national charity providing support and advice and guidance to former civil servants and their dependents. If you would be interested in finding out how you can become a volunteer or a donor, check out the website on www.csrf.org.uk or give us a call on 0208 691 7411. We'll look forward to hearing from you.
So
I've got a question for you, Jean, a sidebar question, obviously, that sort of links into everything you've said. How do you feel as a person of more advanced years in 2026 Britain? I mean, where do you feel? I mean, collectively, obviously,
Oh
everyone is getting
yes.
older, everyone is aging, living
Right.
longer, you know, so
Yeah.
obviously, so ergo, there should be proper support, there should be proper engagement, there should be proper interaction, there should be ways in which people, as they get further in life, feel that they are still relevant to society. I mean, we recently did a tech survey at the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship, and
Yes.
we had a huge response. I mean, over 1,000 surveys, which is way
Yes.
over and above what one might expect to get. And we were
Yes.
sort of ruminating on that. And I actually think one of the reasons a lot of people did, because we did it as a print survey, and people don't often have an opportunity now to actually write an opinion and feel as though they can feed in, because now you've got to do it online, you've got to do it by email, you've got to do it like this. And I think there is a tendency, and coming back to your point where you were talking about COVID, and I'm not going to name companies particularly, but I do think an awful lot of big organizations hid behind lockdown to effectively shunt out customer service divisions of their organization,
Oh yes.
which were up until that point providing telephone support for people who needed it. And they hid behind, oh, well, all of our staff have to work from home, so we can't monitor these telephone lines. So you have to, the only way you can deal with this is if you go online. And there were lots of people, even during lockdown, we kept our phone lines live throughout the whole period. So people did get a live voice if they rang.
Yes.
But an awful lot of people, big organizations who quite frankly could have afforded to easily do that, went down the route of saying, no, 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 it's not accessible. You know, you've got to go online. Now, if you, as we discovered from our survey, people are very skeptical about the internet and the email and all the rest of it. There are, of course, a tranche of people who are quite happy with it, but there are also an equal number who aren't. And there's a, you know, I think there's a growing feeling with some parts of that age band that they are either left behind, they're put on a shelf, ignored. I mean, why is it? Question I was having with a colleague only yesterday. Why is it, and Andy Burnham, if your people are actually listening to this, I know we're not supposed to be political with a capital P, but I would pose you this question. Why does Wales have an older people's commissioner? Northern Ireland has an older people's commissioner. England has no older people's commissioner. Scotland has no older people's commissioner, notwithstanding the generic campaign from older people's organisations led by Age UK and Independent Age to try and persuade an appointment to be made that can recognise the fact that that age brand is huge, and they are increasingly feeling as though they're not being listened to. So that's a sort of a setup, really, Jean, to say, what's your view on that? I mean, you've obviously seen an awful lot in your retirement. What do you feel the state of the nation is for older people now?
Well, you see, I had a computer about 20 years ago. I got into computing very early, and so I'm very au fait with all this. And my mobile phone is it's all in there in my mobile phone. And people are texting me, been texting me while we've been talking. I'm in touch with all my friends and relatives. We're texting here, there, and everywhere. And so I am not, fortunately, in that group of people, of which there are many, who have not got computer literacy, not got access to mobile phones because they're frightened of it all. Now, I did in fact run a course with U3A, a workshop called, and I can't remember what it was called now, CAW. Anyway, whatever it was, computer awareness workshop, it was called, CAW. And I took groups of people from U3A who'd never had a computer, and I taught them the basics of computer, what it was for, what it did, what it could do for them, and a little bit of hands-on experience. And one or two people did latch onto it, but most of them were perhaps too old and too past the whole run. In fact, I also, yes, I'm trying to remember, forgotten all about this. I also went out to some nursing homes, and saw people that
You're such a go-getter, Jean. I love that.
Yes, and actually took one-to-one teaching people to use a computer. In fact, one I think was already using a computer, but he didn't know an awful lot about it. That, I'll tell you, we had to give up on that because the dear man was incontinent, and it was so unpleasant to be in that room with him with the heating full on and no windows open. I'm afraid I had to.
Why is it? I mean, this is the other thing. I love the fact that nursing homes clearly think we need to char grill our older patients, because when I used,
let me just give you the why.
Go on then.
I used to work as a cleaner. Yeah, I've had about 1,000 jobs. And a couple of the times I worked in care homes, and they put the heating up to keep the mature people asleep.
Terrible.
Oh, to keep them asleep. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because once they're asleep, there's no action. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So it's always roasting whenever you go in them places.
No windows open.
No windows, stuffy. And once they've had the medication, especially if it's got the side effect of making you drowsy, you've just got a lot of mature people slouching in these ugly chairs in the place.
I actually did. I did a visit on our home visiting service when we first launched it. There was a lady in a care home not far from me, and it was the most. I mean, she was lovely, but the experience, genuinely, I did not look forward to going. I loved to go and see her. She loved Jaffa cake, so you could have, talk about all sorts of stuff like that. But the way she ceased having an identity, and I remember she had quite bad arthritis. And they had to use a pulley to obviously get her in and out of bed, and she was quite happy being in bed, and she was talking. I was in the room, and she was talking to this nurse, and she said, "I'm quite happy as I am. Can I not?" And there was as though her voice had no resonance at all. And nurse was, "No, you've got to get up. I've got to put you in the pulley. You've got to be put in the chair." And I was thinking, when did you? This was a lady who was a senior civil servant. She ran a department. And it's like her voice had no resonance whatsoever, which, I mean, Jean, coming back to that question we asked you about the state of the nation for older people, technology aside, what do you think? I mean, are you generally happy and satisfied that your lot as somebody of the age you are is a good one? Or have you got a lot of beef, for want of a better phrase, with things that you feel people should be doing that they're not doing to support older people?
Well, I think I've sort of got my head around what you're saying. Um, I certainly have made up my mind that I would not go into a nursing home. If I have to have full-time care, I will pay for a live-in person here.
Yeah.
I've got the £600,000 worth of equity I'm living in, which I would use for that purpose. So that's how I've got my future. Hopefully, it won't come to. I had an aunt that died just short of 100. She's just like me, lived in a four-bedroomed house. She had a cleaner like I do. She had a person that took her out in the car like I do.
Oh,
Very parallel life to me, and everybody loves her. She never grumbled. I try not to grumble. People would go and they would love to see her because she was always so happy and pleasant. She was like me. She was partially deaf and partially blind, so very much, mind you, the only difference between her and I was she never married. She was a single lady, and I've been married twice, so we were rather different in that respect. But I love my auntie, and as I say, she didn't die in her own home. She finished up in a nursing home, but only for a few weeks. She really lived in her own home nearly 100. So I'm hoping that I can carry on. I've got a lot of helpers. I mean, and I've got a stair lift, and I've got grab rails, and I've got what else have I got? I've got this thing here. You can't see it, can you? My rollator, which I wheel around the house. I've got walkers. What else? I've got everything. Everything. Oh,
I think that's
I've got a
good though,
tent
because
for them.
you're demonstrating self-sufficiency, and I think that's very, very important. I mean, my gran,
Yes,
my late grandmother, she was exactly the same. She
yeah.
absolutely did not want to go into a home, and
You're
she, as far as she's concerned, and thankfully she never did have to, and we were able
yes.
to modify, like moving her bedroom from upstairs downstairs,
Yeah,
so she was able,
yeah,
and all of
yeah.
that. But I mean, I hear you. But I mean, overall, Jean, do you think that I mean, not wishing to push you or put a
No.
capital P in politics, are you content with how the consecutive governments have looked out for the plight of those in later life?
What a chemical pain. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, yeah. So you're talking actually about having a minister for the
Well, no,
elderly.
I was generally what I was sorry, Jean, I'll repeat that. What I was generally saying is, how do you feel
Mm.
that governments approach supporting older people? Do you think they do enough? Or if they don't, what perhaps could they do that they're not doing at the moment?
Well, I've got no complaints. I get an attendance allowance, I get a pension from my civil service, and I get a pension from the state. So
Yeah.
I'm in a very fortunate position. Um, I I wouldn't get attendance allowance if I got all the faculties, only because I'm half blind. That's why I get attendance allowance. That helps me to pay, and so I can afford to pay for people to do stuff for me. And I have somebody in it every day doing something for me. And I was going to say to you about being old. The one thing that is important to me, and I'm sure is important to everybody, whatever age we are, but when you're, and that is to be in control of your own life. You see, once you go institutionalized, you've lost total control. And as long as I can be, even though I can't do all the stuff and I've got to have other people helping me, I can pay for, and I can, in a nice way, tell them what to do because they're working for me. They're working, being
Yeah.
paid for me, and I do it. And they all seem to love me.
oh,
People do seem, they all call me Auntie Jean, and long may it continue.
Can we call you Auntie Jean?
You may if you wish. Yes.
oh, okay, Auntie Jean. Right. So I got a quick question for you, Auntie Jean.
I'm gonna do an Andy Burnham. Have you noticed? he does that all the time. And it's like, sometimes it's
He's
so
probably
much.
trying to work out. I don't know. Maybe it's a thing about can I
Yeah,
actually see
yeah,
you sitting in
yeah.
my
It's a
cabinet?
little
Or
mannerism. I'm sure the impersonators will pick up on with him. Yeah.
I
So
think it's
Rory
to do,
Bremner will probably
I
have
think
that down to a T, won't
I
he?
think it's to do with the fact that it's only
Brem,
taken him
Rory
5 weeks.
Sorry,
It's taken him to Jean. It's taken him 5 weeks to come from the north to the south, and he's been crowned a king in
I
five
know.
weeks. So
He's the
I don't think he can quite believe it.
he's the Mancunian Messiah, they call him,
Oh
don't
yeah,
they? Yeah,
I was calling him the king of the north because I think to
yeah,
myself,
yeah.
you
Well,
know,
we've got to
yeah,
get, I mean, whatever colour politics we are, we needn't go into that now, but I think we've got to give him a chance because, it can't be any worse than what went before. But
fair enough.
I
What,
like this idea of a minister for the aged, though. I mean, that's something I've never thought about. It sounds to be quite a good idea because there must be. You pointed out, which is so true. There are so many older people, and I've known many who really are not living in the real world because if they can't go on the internet, everything's on the internet, and they can hardly go into a shop. They'll say, "Well, we've got lots more online. Look online. Look online." And I can do that, but there are many people that are not living in that world now. They're still
I
living.
have just on that, and I know Dee wants to get a question, and she keeps getting rebuffed. But before it falls out of my head, I still do have a beef about going in somewhere and they won't take cash. And that really, I mean, I understand the logic, and I know Dee's rolling her eyes and thinking you need to get in the modern world, blah 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 blah. But I still think you should have the right to be able to
I'm
pay in
agreeing with you,
cash.
Dee.
Oh, you are okay.
No, no, because I
Yeah,
think the whole question around cash,
yeah,
yeah, it's one of the things that gives older people a sense of control because they
exactly.
can go into their wallet and it's
Yeah,
a concept that they understand. Tapping and not seeing your bank account is not something that a lot of older people have been brought up with. It might be a case of you put this in the jar for the bills so you can see there's a visual element
yeah,
with cash. But what I
Mm.
wanted to ask Jean, because I'm conscious that we're coming up to the hour, what
yeah.
I wanted to ask Jean is what are the things that you are looking forward to and for maybe the rest of the year? I don't know if you're doing a holiday or you've got any plans for any attending any activities and that you'd happily share with us. So what are you looking forward to between, over the next 6 to 12 months in terms of what's making you excited?
I could be facetious, couldn't I, and say, well, I'm looking forward to living another day. I live one day at a time. I'm not religious. I don't go to church or anything, but I do have a spiritual dimension, and I'm thankful every day that I've come to the beginning of another day, and I will make the most of this day that's been given to me. But looking forward to, well, I keep a diary my diary is always 2 weeks full. I'm always booked
Wow.
up for 2 weeks in advance. And I have people come here. I've got a lovely person, daughter of a school friend of mine, and she's nearly 60 now. And she comes all the way from Guildford every so often. And she brings a complete lunch, nice forks, spoons. I don't have to provide anything. And she
Lovely.
brings it all into my lovely sun lounge where we have lunch together. Stays here for 2 hours. Here we are, Andy Bowman again, and so that I look forward to that. I have what is she now? My niece from my first marriage comes down from London. She lives in a posh part of North London. She's coming down shortly, and she does the same. She brings all the food and everything,
Oh,
and dishes it all, puts it in the oven, dishes it all up. And so I look forward to that. I get taken out once a month by other relatives. My cousin and her husband, they take me out to lunch in the car locally, and they go to suit me. We have to go somewhere where there's a toilet accessible, because I'm a bit of a constantly weeing person, and so somewhere where I can get to the toilet. I haven't got to go upstairs or anything. So we always book a place where we can do that. And I pay 1 month, they pay the next. This is my
wow.
idea. I mean,
You're
they would.
very busy, Jean.
Oh, I'm very busy. And so you ask me what I look forward to, and I've got all this to look forward to. You see, I mean, I've got lots, but holidays abroad, no. No holidays. I don't want to go out of my home, quite frankly, not to stay overnight. And so, I mean, I've done a lot of foreign travel. I used to love. That's another whole episode we could have. My Greek.
We'll have to have you back on, Auntie Jean. But I mean, on that, I said we'll have to have you back on for an episode 2, the way you can talk to us about.
Yeah.
We'll expect to have a dramatic reading from your racy novel. What's the title of your novel, by the way, Jean?
Harriet Unzipped.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Come on, that's got to
And
go
you're
out.
telling.
You've got to go out. You've got to send that out to
I had a
everyone.
conversation with you, Jean, before
Harriet
this, and
Unzipped.
when we were mentioning it, I was thinking, I wonder if Jean is going to write the next 50 Shades of Grey, and with that title,
Oh,
Harriet
no.
Unzipped.
No, it isn't the 50 Shades. It's nothing sort of perverted or it's pretty. I think there is a threesome in it somewhere in a hotel when somebody gets drunk, but there's nothing. 50 Shades of
I
Grey
could be
to
really
me.
cheeky. I
Is
could be really
absolutely-
cheeky, Jean, and
No,
say how much of it was drawn from semi-autobiographical experiences.
not three in a bed. No, I've never done that.
Go
But,
on, Jean. We love you.
I'll tell you an experience
Can't wait for the part 2.
Part 2 will be broadcast after 10 p.m., I think.
After
Oh,
water.
I mean, one experience that I had, I'll be as quick as I can. I was
No,
working
it's
up,
fine. Take your time, Jean.
working up in London. This goes in the book, and this was a true experience. And I was having a little bit of a dalliance with a fellow person who was on this course I was on, and we went to the Palladium, and we saw Cilla Black and Frankie Howard. I remember who it was. You see,
Oh,
they were
wow.
still. And they said halfway through, and they were sitting there anonymously with all these people, and not wanting to be recognised. And they said, now we're going to do a raffle now for a prize. And they said, look under your seat, and you'll see you've all got a ticket under your seat, you see. And see what it is. And we called out the number. So they called out the number, and we look at it. Oh my God, it's us, you see. We go,
Oh, no.
but what it was, everybody had the same number and everybody stood up with their ticket, you see. But of course, for one terrible moment, we thought we were going to be put on show I mean, he was married and I was married. I'm sorry about that, but that was the fact of life. And
I love you, Jean.
Do you know,
so
Jean, on that, just to show that things haven't changed, last year, and I heard this on Heart Radio, there was last year, Chris Martin from Coldplay
Oh, that's
was
what I was
doing
thinking about,
yeah,
Jean.
was doing a concert, and he had like a kiss cam thing. So they had the camera go in, and he homed in on a couple who were not married, and nobody knew they were there.
They
And
were not married to each other,
not
even.
married
They
to
were
each
married to
other,
other people.
exactly. They were with other people, and the camera went in, and he was like, "Oh
oh,
yes, you must give us a kick. Shit, you obviously really
oh,
into each other." And so their affair got exposed on national camera thanks to Coldplay. So you had a
well,
lucky escape in the days before social media and all of that.
yeah, absolutely, that's playing a real trick on people. But yes, I've got this Andy Burnham habit now. Flipping.
I've got it
I
on.
Oh,
can't find a GIF for Andy Burnham. That would probably
Not
by the
yet.
time
They're
not
coming.
yet. No, that's not
They're
yet.
coming.
Well, look, Jean, we could. I get the feeling we could go another 2 to 3 hours without even drawing breath. However, much as we'd love to, we are conscious of the fact that our episodes need to be sort of clipped to a certain
yeah.
amount. But if you just bear with us a minute, I'm just going to do the wrap. But I just wanted to say to those of you listening, I hope you've thoroughly enjoyed the episode as much as we have engaged
Yes,
with it. We've now got a new honorary auntie who we will
Yeah,
certainly get back. So
Auntie Jean.
if you would like Auntie Jean to come back for a second episode and do a dramatic reading of Harriet Unzipped, you need to post some comments under the YouTube episode, or you can get, if you would like her to do a dramatic reading or something,
Some of her
tell us what you'd
poetry.
like us to ask Auntie Jean to do. And depending on how willing she is, she might be willing to do it for the next episode. But
all
just to
right.
say, There you go. Just to say a huge thank you to Jean for joining us. As always, a big thank you to my lovely, super co-host and friend, Denise, who's mastered those reactions. As you will see this episode, we've had emojis coming at it all left and right and centre. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. We have lots more to come. We've got plenty more people in the pipeline that will be coming through on the episodes through. If you've not listened to some of the older episodes, we've got a fabulous episode. The most recent one before Jean's goes live was with the wonderful Debbie, who we were at an event last week. And a lady from Civil Service Insurance Society, the managing director, said that she loved the episode because it made her smile. And that's a job well done, because the whole point of this, aside from listening to the interesting stories of the people that we're talking to, is to inject positivity, inject belief and love and comedic value, because we've all got comedy in our lives. And I think the thing that I will take away is I need to find a humour group near me.
I love that.
So if I'm having an off day, I don't have to open a bottle of gin. I can actually embrace my inner comedian. On that, just a quick note on that. I think we were talking about comedians. One of the podcasts, which I'm a huge fan of, is French and Saunders, which I'm a new listener to, and they're on Audible. That's another advert. So Amazon, if you hear that, you can obviously buy a sponsorship slot on the next YouTube episode. But they do an Audible thing called Titting About. And I think, without stealing their thunder, I think that that's a great premise for any podcast, because if you take yourself too seriously, you get lost in your own proverbial. So on that note, lovely to speak to you all. Lovely to have you listening. We will look forward to catching up with you on the next episode. Enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to post a comment. If you're enjoying this episode of the podcast and fancy joining us as a guest on a future episode, then we'd love to hear from you. If you visit our website, www.csrf.org.uk, you can find out on the homepage all about how you can reach out to us and become a guest on a future episode. It doesn't matter from what background you come. What we really want to find are people with interesting experiences in retirement and beyond. So maybe you could be our next special guest.